Welcome to Greene Light for Justice, saving the world one case at a time.
Hello and welcome to Greene Light for Justice, saving the world one case at a time with experienced attorney Michael S. Greene. For over 30 years, Michael has aggressively represented and won cases for his clients who need an experienced lawyer for all types of accidents, personal injury, medical and nursing home malpractice, wrongful death, and premise liability claims. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is From Loss to Legal Action, Pursuing Justice in Maryland Wrongful Death Cases. Michael, welcome back.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you.
You as well. So can you explain the most common causes of fatal trucking and car accidents in Maryland and how these types of accidents are legally approached?
Sure. Big question. The easy question or the easy answer for the causes are kind of common sense and what you and I and people see when you look at the news any day, every day, or if you're on the road a lot, you see it. The question as far as legal approaches, that's a big one, and we can get into that in some detail. But the causes are, not to be a smart ass about it, but it's physics. You got big things hitting small things, whether it's a car crash or a truck crash. You have a car that weighs a few thousand pounds. You have a truck that if they're hauling a load could weigh 50,000 pounds. And you have the human body, which might weigh anywhere from a child, a few pounds, up to a full-sized male, 250 pounds or so, or more. Regardless, the human body is no match for steel and these tremendous weights. And also when the vehicles are traveling at even if they were traveling at a safe speed, it's just no match between a human body and a vehicle. So it could be a pedestrian accident. It doesn't take a whole lot of force for a truck to hit or a car to hit a pedestrian and kill them. It could be from the initial impact. It could be from getting knocked to the ground and striking the head. And the same as if you're in a vehicle. Hopefully you're in a relatively safe vehicle, but there's only so much a vehicle can do. One of the comparisons that we make sometimes is if you think about a carton of eggs and you have a carton of raw eggs, and if you drop the carton, you look at the carton, which would be your car, and it might not even have a lot of property damage, but look at the eggs inside. Chances are, if you drop it from 5 feet up, one or more of those eggs, maybe all of them are going to crack. And that's what happens. So the causes, whether it's speeding with vehicles, speeding, aggressive driving, unsafe lane changes, drunk driving, drug driving, distracted driving, being on a cell phone, all these causes, unsafe vehicles, cars that they're trucks that are not maintained properly, or the trucking companies making their drivers drive too far and over the legal limits of hours on the road. There are all these different causes. And I don't know if you want me to get into how everything's legally approached, because that's a really big question and it could take a while to answer. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds like a really good segue into that. Can you kind of speak to that and how these cases are approached?
Sure. So first there's the what we call the accident, which most of the time is, yes, it's an accident in the sense that it was not done intentionally. Most of these accidents, they're crashes, and most of them are foreseeable. That means if you think about what somebody was doing, the wrongdoer was doing, drinking and driving, smoking weed and driving, being distracted on a cell phone, speeding, zigzagging in and out of traffic. It's likely that if you behave one person behaves in a dangerous manner, then somebody's going to get hurt. So it's back to the idiots and assholes. Unfortunately, whether you're out, when you're out on the road, you're dealing with idiots or assholes, the unfortunate part is it just seems that it's some other innocent person that gets hurt.
Right. And
it's sickening, but it happens. So there you go. You have your crash. That's number one. Number two, what do? Take care of the injured person. Hospital, if they're lucky enough to survive, and get the medical treatment, because we know it doesn't take a lawyer to tell you that your life and your health is the most important thing. So you take care of that. don't even have to think about that it was caused by a crash. You have to get yourself better as best you can. And there's also, in addition to these physical injuries, there's psychological and emotional injuries in death cases. I mean, my goodness, so there's a lot of that to be taken care of. And I think we may touch on that a little later. But number three is after, while the injured person is being taken care of, then the attorney jumps in. We gather the evidence to support any kind of a claim. We want to get the pieces of the puzzle together. We want to get our accident reconstructionist in to look at the trucks and to test the trucks and to get the data off the black boxes, the electronic data recorders. We want to preserve that evidence. We want our experts to tell us, report to us if there are any dangerous issues involved with the vehicles, bad tires, bad brakes, any kind of bad systems, too much weight in the truck, and so on and so forth. We want to get all that together. We want to gather our clients' medical records, medical bills, proof. This is proof. This is going to be evidence that we're going to use later in trying to settle the case, or if we have to go to court, we're going to use it in court. We want to get all of this, proof of the harms and losses, loss of ability to work. We may have to hire vocational experts and economists to help us prove these future financial losses. We may have to hire life care planners to help us prove what the cost of taking care of an injured person is for the rest of their life. God forbid if they can't take care of themselves. And then after we gather all of this information together, we put together a very detailed demand package and we present it to the insurance company and say, this is the value of what my clients or their families' injuries, their harms, their losses, their legal damages. And we attempt to settle the case through negotiation. And then if that works, then if it's a fair offer if it's acceptable to our clients, then it's a done deal. If the insurance company does not make a fair offer, then, like I've said before, I take off the hoodie, I put on the suit, and we get down to business. We take the wrongdoers and their insurance carriers to court, and we prove our case. And at some point, sometimes when you get these insurance carriers and these defendants, you put them in a corner and you cut off all means of escape, they might realize that they need to pay then and there, otherwise face a greater challenge in court. And if they pay, and if it's fair, and if it's acceptable to our clients, the case is settled. If not, we continue on with the court process. That's the litigation process. And we present our case to a jury of our clients' peers, and we let the jury tell the defendants and their insurance companies how much these damages are worth and how much they need to pay.
When it comes to trucking companies, in your experience, how do they and their insurers respond to claims of wrongful death? And what are some of the tactics that they use to try to defend themselves?
Well, this topic is actually not necessarily unique to the insurance or to the trucking companies and their insurers. This is actually more what I've observed is widespread, and it could apply to insurers and just any adverse party, any defendant, any insurance company, whether it's a truck crash, a smaller vehicle passenger crash, it could be a premises liability claim, it could be a homeowner's claim. God, it could even be a health insurance claim. What do we see happening? We see the insurance companies. What's their strategy? Delay, deny, and defend. Sound familiar? That's what they do. But it's a level playing field out there in the courtroom. So bring it on.
I like that. Bring it on. I wanted to also ask you about Maryland's comparative fault law and how that impacts wrongful death cases involving trucking as well as car accidents, and how it affects some of the outcome of such claims. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So most people, if they have ever heard of comparative fault, that's what they think of, the word comparative fault. In Maryland, we're a little bit backwards because we don't have comparative fault. You don't compare the fault of the real wrongdoer versus somebody who may have made a minor mistake. In the 48 other states, Maryland is in a handful of states, maybe 4 states, that we don't have comparative fault. We have what's called contributory negligence. So in a comparative law state, you compare, if the injured person did something minor that was wrong, they can still recover. You just compare the fault of that person to the real wrongdoer. In Maryland, if the injured person was just a tiny bit at fault, 1% at fault, they can be considered to have been contributory negligent. And according to the law, that would stop the injured person from making any recovery. So it's very important to really not be talking to the other person's insurance company. You don't want to open yourself up to some kind of defense, because these defendants, these defense attorneys, these insurance companies, they will jump on the opportunity to say that you're contributory negligent, that you were a little bit at fault, and try to hold that over your head so they can either try to pay you nothing or try to minimize or reduce the true value of your claim. So there are some legal maneuvers, some legal tactics that we can use to overcome contributory negligence. But yeah, it's something that you really have to be careful about, and make sure you don't talk to the other side, don't talk to the other side's insurance company.
When it comes to expert testimony, we talked briefly, I think, in a previous episode about accident reconstruction specialists, medical professionals. Like, what are these experts? What role do they play in proving fault and damages, particularly in fatal accident cases?
Well, they can be very important, and you don't have a lot of time to make the determination of whether they're going to be important or not. You have to assume that you need them in many cases, just in case. So just in case there are claims. I mean, some cases we could hire an expert witness and spend thousands and thousands of dollars for them to reconstruct the accident, to inspect the vehicles, to download the data from the electronic data recorders, to give us a report about the truck, the tractor part of the truck, the trailer part of the truck, what the data shows, whether the vehicle was traveling too fast, whether the load was too heavy, whether the suspension was unsafe, or the tires or the wheels or the brakes. And sometimes that helps. And because oftentimes you'll have, if it's a motor vehicle crash, whether it's a truck crash or a passenger vehicle crash, people have different recollections of what happened on the road. The other way to say it is that people lie. So the more evidence that you have to prove your case is usually better. Good evidence. So yeah, it's very important to have the trucking experts and the crash reconstructionists come in early. And the reason they have to come in early is because once the vehicles are taken off the road, if usually the car itself, the passenger car is going to be totaled, so somebody's going to be trying to get rid of that car. So we need to get our evidence off of the vehicle before it's totaled and taken away. And the same with the truck. The truck's either going to be repaired or totaled. So you have a really small window to get that information. The information may end up helping you, and it may end up not helping you, but right. You don't have time to really think about it. You got to get it and see what it shows.
It's obviously can be very emotional, and it's probably tough on you and your team sometimes dealing with some of these horrific cases. How do you support grieving families throughout the legal process? And what are some of the key ways that your legal strategy seeks to get justice and compensation for loss of a loved one?
Wow, those are really great questions and really important questions. So what I've seen is that different people grieve differently. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see people. We see them in the hospital. We see into funerals, and I mean it's heart-wrenching. Like I said, different people, different families grieve differently. Some people want to be left alone. Some people seek professional help, counselors. So that's a personal decision for each of our clients to make. If somebody were to ask for advice on something like that, I would give them the advice or point them in the right direction. I try to listen to my clients. I don't want to interfere in things that they don't want to us to interfere in. Just try to be a good person to them, and then do what we can do. This is kind of moving on to the next part, is aside from the grieving, is I try to help them with the legal process. And I will help them with the legal process. And I explain the whole process to them from the beginning to the end. I'll tell my clients as much or as little as they want to know. On an initial intake, the formal intake, I will say, here's the roadmap. Number one, I'm going to gather a whole lot of information from you. Number two, I'm going to explain to you how the process works. And number three, I'm going to answer any questions that you have. And we go through that. And like I said, some clients, everybody's different. Some people really want to be super involved, and other people, they don't. So it's a personal decision for each client. And I'll tell them as much or as little as they want to know. And then as far as much as they want to know, like I said, I'll get into how the entire process works and what are our goals? What are their goals? Because that's, unfortunately, we can't bring their loved one back, but maybe there's some other way that we can get justice for them.
Yeah, you're working with them at what is probably and hopefully the worst thing that ever happens to them, and that's a tough situation. So is it difficult to kind of like balance the emotion with the professionalism?
It is. There are cases where it's really tough. It's tough. Nothing compared to what the family is going through. It's unbelievable when you stop and you think and you're mindful and you're present. It's very difficult, but it's something that I try to do my part to help them in this process.
Yeah, well, that's a tough position to be in. So kudos to you for taking care of people in such a tough time. And thank you for tuning in to Greene Light for Justice, saving the world one case at a time. To connect with Michael and the team, you can call 800-238-4960. And please like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review if you can. Michael, it was always great chatting with you. Thanks so much for being here.
You too. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.